A different place. Hey guys, it's time for. There you go, Matt. There, cover Matt and Joy. We won't cover up Joy. We'll cover up Matt. That's all.
Yeah, that's better.
It's Wednesday night refuel time, guys, and obviously I've got some special stuff for you right now. But first, thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. I know everybody's just going to start coming on here in a little bit. So while that's happening, I'm going to go in here and make sure we're all firing right. Thanks for being here. And we do have that audio. Now I can't make it go away. I'm going to share it to my page and get us going. Good. So, anyway, guys, I'm glad you're here no matter what time you're watching. Some of you will be watching on Instagram. I know some of you will be watching on YouTube later. All those platforms. Thanks for being here. And as we get started, and we're still waiting for everybody, let me just, as always, give you the heads up on what this is all about. First of all, ReFuel is all about encouragement. Right in the middle of your week, right in the middle place where it can be tough, we just want to encourage you and build you up, give you what you need to make it through the next few days.
Over the hump day.
Over the hump.
Yeah.
Now, not hump, over the hump.
Over the hump.
And that's part of the special part about what we do. There's a few things you need to know. First of all, this is about the conversation. What we like about Facebook Live is that you can be engaged right down here. So that's the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what's going on. And if you want to comment in there, comment. We'll try to answer if we can. And that's part of the fun of it. And you never know, something that you add may really help somebody. The other place is right over here. It's a longer reach tonight. Is the Amen Corner. Thank you, guys.
It's my bicep.
And his bicep. And you know, so you get to the edge of the screen, it gets bigger. Do you know?
No, I know. It's kind of nice. It's like I'm liking it.
So that's the Amen Corner. See, you get a lot of amens on the likes and loves on the bicep.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's that. And the last thing is really just this: is make sure you share this. It's really important because you're going to know people that I don't know, that I don't have influence with. And tonight we could talk about something that you may think really will help somebody. And I can tell you that tonight is possibly going to be a little bit different than what we normally do because we're going to talk about some stuff that, we may get a black screen here just a little bit.
I'm sorry.
But we're going to have a load of fun.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just glad everybody's hanging out with us. So once again, all of you that are watching on replay, on Instagram, on YouTube, thanks for being here. And just jump in. We're glad you're here. And share it any way that you can. It always helps. So anyway, tonight, and I'm going to read off my thing so I don't mess anything up here, is I've got two very special guests that I'm excited are here with us. And first I want to say thanks for hanging out with me for just a little bit. And they just kind of got thrown into this. So, but I'm glad.
Still got whiplash.
Right. So I'm really glad they're here. They're so used to this. And you'll understand why here in just a minute. But this is Joy and Matt Thayer. And they own Sparrow Pictures, correct? Sparrow Pictures out of Redding, California. I'm sorry, you're from California.
So so are we actually right now.
We won't hold it against you.
No, please don't.
No, we love California.
I try not to hold it against myself.
California's going to have great days.
California is beautiful.
It is. I haven't been in a long time. But Northern California,
yeah, we're
absolutely
way up north.
Stunning.
We're in Redding.
We're practically in Oregon, so I mean that's how far we are north. So
so it's absolutely beautiful. But that's where they're from. That's where their business is. But the company is all over the place. That's why they're here, because they are traveling and they do a lot of documentaries. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, we're currently we've done a couple of them.
Our favorite is narrative film,
like scripted work,
scripted projects.
Unlike what we're doing here,
right?
Unlike what we're doing right now.
Exactly. The complete opposite.
The last scripted project I got to work on was Unplanned, and I was one of the associate producers in there, and I also acted in it, and our team did a bunch of behind the scenes on that project.
Yeah.
So
nice.
That would be.
I was the director of the behind the scenes, like doing all of the behind the scenes interviews and all that sort of stuff. And if you look really closely, you can see my shoulder in the film.
Not
He
just
keeps
your,
trying
not
to
your
get his
bicep.
arms.
No, not my bicep. No, it was my shoulder. It was, yeah.
They can recognize that.
I love that. Well, yeah, tell me real quick. So, filmmaking is it has to be challenging. Is it raining? I think
It is. It's
Wow.
storming out there.
All of a sudden, I didn't think we were getting any rain.
Awesome.
And I'm hoping that my windows aren't down. But anyway, that's why it hit me. But so tell me this, like with being a filmmaker, because I know all of us normal people,
Right.
we don't understand what the filmmaker's life might be like. But what is it about making films that drew you to it and that caused you to be so passionate about it?
Do you want to answer that first? And,
Yeah. Years ago, my parents were missionaries, and growing up with them being Christians, I always kind of felt bad that I didn't feel called to the mission field the same way that they were called to it. And I fell in love with storytelling at a very young age, and I really feel like this is going to be the next wave of revival, is through the arts and entertainment and media, and we can reach a lot of people. I mean, look at right now, we're hanging out with all y'all wherever you're at. And so I think what became really important because, God was the chief storyteller.
Yeah.
Jesus would tell stories, and he'd be able to communicate very effectively using parables and that type of stuff. And fortunately for us, now we can tell them visually, and we can encompass all the arts. We can encompass music, we can encompass writing, we can encompass
I love that.
production design, and we can convey a lot of information in a short amount of time. And so we're super passionate about telling stories that one of our partners says that tells the world that God is good.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I've always been attracted to storytelling ever since I was a kid. I wanted to be an animator, but and I drew a lot, and I've illustrated some children's books and things like that, but I never actually really was attracted so much to the making things move as I was, and these are the characters, and these are what they're doing, and really driving the story, and so, and film really is the art form of our time.
Yeah,
and a lot of people, because back in the the 1700s, you had the novel, right? Robinson Crusoe, and Charles Dickens, right, and all this other stuff, and then you have the plays that came out of you had Shakespeare back in the 1600s, and then there was kind of that revival of plays in the 1800s, and then really at the advent of film. I mean, the thing is the art form of art forms, because it like Joy was saying, it has music, it has set design, costuming, scripting. It's all art forms really encompassed together,
And it meets people where they are.
and it meets people where they are, and so it's just an extraordinarily powerful tool. And storytellers have been really really one of the most important aspects of society, because it's to storytellers that we go to find meaning, because we can't really find meaning in everyday life, like you were talking about, ReFuel, right? It's like, there's things that happen in your life that just are confusing and they don't make sense. And, like, it's just like, but there's this sense of justice, or there's this sense of like things need to be, this isn't the way that things should be.
Yeah.
And storytelling speaks to that and gives us that opportunity to experience that catharsis that we need to see the beginning, the middle, and the end, and go, yes, all right is right with the world, and I can move forward knowing that, today I might be going through trials, but tomorrow I'm going to see some sort of resolution,
And I think that's the beautiful thing about storytelling, is that the best stories always lead you somewhere. And you walk away, like I hate stories that are open-ended. They drive me crazy, because I will sit and I will dwell on it, and I'll go, why did it do that? I like the ones that give me something to work with. I like that. But anyway, I love the whole idea of visual storytelling. I love that.
Yeah. Yep. And what's amazing about films is that they've developed that visual language that was developed so many years ago with the silent films, and it's just true today, and it's so powerful. I mean, and honestly, it's one of those things that can be used for evil too. I mean, when you see the Nazi and German propaganda, and
Propaganda?
Maybe some propaganda, that you might have seen recently on certain networks. But so it can be right. It can be used.
Slow down.
It can be used for evil, and that's what we always tell, because we do a lot of classes and teach a lot of younger filmmakers, and I always caution them, because while a shovel can be used, or a hammer can be used to build something, right? It can also be used to beat somebody's head in. So same thing with filmmaking and visual language. So
yeah.
I
love that, and I think that's so important. And today, we live in a world. And this is, first of all, before I even get to that, let me ask some of you guys that are watching, is this, I mean, do any of you ever have any questions about what we're seeing on media, what we're seeing in the world, what we're seeing in our politics, even in our worlds of faith? Mm-hmm. We have questions, and we see things, and we're trying to wrap our head around things, and one of the things I just want to jump into, because I know we got to honor our time, is this new project that you're working on. Now, before we go to that, I do want to say this, because y'all been involved in another controversial project that, some people would call it controversial. Some people would. But it was the Trump I Know that came out last year, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if it was about the women...
Yeah.
Powerful women in Trump's life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really cool. The pieces that I've seen, I haven't got to see it yet. Now I'll have to go see it.
You guys got to hold him accountable and actually make him watch that.
Yeah, and my wife will, I promise. But coming out of that into this, I know the new project that you're working on is called Reawakening. Mm-hmm. And when our mutual friend Bob was telling me about this, he was just like, you've got to come talk to Matt. You've got to come talk to Joy, Matt. You got to come. And I was like, okay, I'm on my way. And part of the reason he wanted that so badly is because this project's tying in what's happening in our world with revival. Mm-hmm. And as a pastor, in my world, revival is something we're hearing about constantly, and we're seeing these things all around us, little pockets. Almost what it seems like. But there's this question of, when is this going to happen? When is this revival? When is this awakening going to happen? And that's the subject matter that you guys are tackling. So tell me a little bit about this reawakening idea.
Yeah, so we're working on a project with Clay Clark, and it's a reawakening series, and it really just came out of his heart to expose some of the propaganda that's being pushed right now. And we said, well, what kind of story are we telling? Who are we telling it to? And what are we really getting at? And I think what we really got to was the point of, we've taken God out of everything. From our schools, from politics, from science, the arts, all that kind of stuff. So that's really the heart of it, is if people don't know that Jesus is the Lord and Savior, introducing them to Him. And then if they do know that He is, a lot of people are feeling disenfranchised right now, and they're feeling very discouraged, and does my vote actually matter? And I mean,
why try?
Why try? We're living in California, we're in the middle of a recall, and everybody's like, well, why are we going to even vote? Because they're just going to cheat. Right. And so
and there's nobody to vote for anyway.
Right.
And these are concerns that people are having. And so when we started on the journey of the project, we're interviewing people like Mike Lindell and General Flynn and Roger Stone and Ann Vandersteel, and we're interviewing doctors and all that kind of stuff. And it's just been amazing, because we're actually not only experiencing revival as we've been doing this project, and we're seeing people come to the Lord that have massive followings. We are actually giving people their voices and their power back, and we're encouraging them to use their voice and not to be silenced and not to be afraid. Because the greatest commandment is, if you just read the Bible, is fear not, for I am with you. And He constantly is getting to that, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. And so we really are operating out of places is don't do anything out of fear. And so I think that's been really important for us to share. But there's a lot of things that we're dealing with that are pretty pretty heavy subject matters in the middle of all this.
Yeah. Well, I think the reawakening thing really comes out of it. It reminds me of a quote from C.S. Lewis where it says that we don't need to be told so much as we need to be reminded.
Yeah.
And a lot of my stories come from this idea that universal truth, that the physics, if you will, that God built mankind upon, and human nature upon, is within all of us. And so we really just need to strike that chord, and to reawaken the human heart towards these things. And so, I think especially with Americans, our founding, whether you want to argue with it or not, our founding was Christian.
Right.
It was Judeo-Christian, based upon Judeo-Christian ethics.
Don't argue with me about that.
Yeah, and there's lots of documentation that prove it. And these men were prolific writers, and it's hard to argue with something that's written down in somebody's own hand.
Right.
And so there was an extraordinary belief in the Lord, and that the laws that govern humanity come from Him, and so they set about to create our founding documents, especially in the Declaration of Independence, where they gave honor to that and saying that these rights came from God and are endowed upon us from Him. And when that moment happened, I believe that there was a sacred thing that transpired, because it was the first time that humanity was connected with God in government without a king involved, without some sort of intermediary, right? And so I believe that at that point, not only that, but I think if you go back to the Mayflower Compact and what they were doing there, they established a covenant with God, and I believe that God honors that covenant. Yeah. And so what I think is happening right now is I believe that there's a lot of people that are reawakening to the idea that God's not just supposed to be over in this little church over here with these people, and somehow we as Christians for the last 150 years have been duped into this belief system that we're either A, supposed to be just over here in this little box, or B, we're just supposed to be evangelizing people because God's coming any second, and so we're all out of here, but that's not what I find in the Bible, and I don't believe that that's what Jesus was teaching. And also, I don't believe that echoes anything that the Founding Fathers believed, because the Founding Fathers believed, and I believe that this is biblical, is that we were just to disciple nations. It was to be about establishing the kingdom of God on earth. And that we were supposed to, because it's like Bill Johnson, who's my pastor back home at Bethel, he talks about, okay, well, it's great that you want people to get saved, but what are we saving people to? Right? And people are saying like, oh, well, Christians aren't supposed to be in politics, or Christians aren't supposed to be in this, or Christians are, well, then, nature abhors. What are we supposed to do? Well, nature abhors the problem, right? Nature abhors a vacuum. Yeah. Right? And so when you vacate those places...
And that's a powerful thought.
Right. There's going to be something that fills it.
Right.
And if we understand that God is good and God lives inside of us, and if we're not there, well, there's only one option left.
Right.
And but people will sit there and complain that, well, I can't find anything good on Netflix. And honestly, good Lord, there's like all this satanic crap now that's showing up and all this other garbage. And it's like, well, we vacated... the territory. Yeah. What do you think's going to happen if you don't tend your garden? Right, it's going to get overgrown with weeds. Right. So we've done this to ourselves, and the reawakening idea is really coming from the fact that it's not only the fact that we're reawakening to these ideas around our founding, and the reawakening to the fact that like there could have been some pretty crazy stuff going on with medical fraud and election stuff, and I'm not trying not to get you in trouble.
Election stuff.
Election stuff. Yeah, election stuff. There was a whole bunch of fraudulent. There was a whole bunch of fraudulent pillows out there. But anyway, So we're exploring a lot of things that are happening right now, and what's amazing is that we're going to these events and we're seeing God touch people. Yeah. We're seeing podcasters with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of viewers.
This is a fascinating piece because, see, this is what
getting
we
saved.
don't hear.
Right.
We don't get to hear about, people with that much influence
Right.
who are finding Jesus.
Right.
And now they're influencing those people. And that, to me, is the exciting part of what you're talking about, is that's where revival's coming from, outside the walls of the church, as you should expect.
Right.
And that's beautiful. Those are the stories that we love to hear and that we need to hear.
Right.
And I feel like that's what this whole reawakening idea is. Now, the pieces of the reawakening, I think, are so powerful, just in the little bit that I've got to see, is that it's taking all these current events, whether you want to call it geopolitical, all the different places, and it's tying all that together. Because we cannot, and we can argue this point, you can argue this point all you want to, but you cannot pull politics away from what's going on in our nation spiritually. Because it is so, dark. And the only way to combat the dark is exposing it to light. And I feel like that's a lot of what you guys are doing, is just taking and saying, hey, here it is. We're not trying to paint the picture. Here's the information.
Well, and one point that I'm just reminded of real quickly, and I want Joy to say something, but when you use the word politics just, it just has a nasty connotation around it, right? Because it is. You could be politics.
Political.
It's political.
Right.
It's a political spirit. You can have politics anywhere, right? But I heard it recently from Dutch Sheets, but he said something along the lines that it's about government, and God is pure government, and it's really interesting because God is the king, right? He's the lawgiver, and he's the judge. So what's amazing about our founding fathers, right, is they split that up into three, right? But God is all of them and all in one, and when a lot of people don't know this either too, but when George Washington was asked to be king, he said, "We have no king but Jesus, but I will preside over his inheritance until he comes," which is where we get the word president.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
I feel smarter now.
well, you're welcome. But
I don't know what you wanted me to share.
oh, I didn't know if you had anything to share or not.
It's like when they just start looking at you like, what are you going to do?
I didn't want to just take all of the time. So
No, I think it's been such an amazing journey. I think when Bob Sands is an amazing writer that has been in the film industry for many, many years, and he's the one that connected us with Clay. And one of the things that we really enjoyed about Clay is that he's a pastor that's got his church open, that is preaching to his congregation and telling them, like, get out there. Don't just come to church on a Sunday and then go back to your life and be helpless. Go home. Keep communicating with the Lord. Find out what He's telling you to do. What do you do about your job? What if you are a school teacher and they're mandating things? What if you are a nurse and they're mandating things? Do you stand up? Where is God at? And people are very afraid and concerned right now. And so we've got to be getting our source first from the Lord. We've got to not be afraid of people. We've got to not be afraid of things. And God's got answers and solutions to these problems. And so we were just so grateful for leadership, that a pastor is there saying, get out there, get involved in your school board, get involved in politics, run for your city council, make sure you are voting, even if things have been mishandled right now and in the past.
There's still hope.
There's still hope.
Oh, there's
don't just
lots
lay
of hope.
down and surrender. Jesus is coming back for a victorious bride, and that's who we're called to be. And so I think that's one of the things we really want to do in this film is encourage people. And if they don't have the right resources, connecting them with doctors that will prescribe ivermectin or budesonide or different things like that, or connect them with other resources. And apparently I shouldn't say all of those things.
those words are.
So
It's dark now.
I'm sorry.
Oh, there we are. We're gone.
But I think that's
it's
the
true.
thing.
It is true.
Absolutely
we've
true.
got to be sharing and getting the word out there, and I think that's really important.
Well, and it's interesting because I can't find a single Bible story that doesn't involve courage.
Yeah.
Like you got Gideon, you got David, you've got Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You got Daniel. Like look at all Esther. You like Deborah. Just everything. Right? There's always this Abraham. Like just set off in the middle of nowhere. It's like following God takes faith. Doing the right thing takes faith.
Right.
And this is one thing that I want to encourage people with, because we are seeing a lot of division. Like I was just talking to somebody today. And people are like divided because, well, hey, did you take the jab or you didn't take the jab? And, why don't you have a mask on? People are withholding grandkids from their grandmothers because they, it's like just really awful. But the thing is that, and then we have all of the racial divisions and, like gender and all this other stuff. And we were talking about this the other day, is that the enemy does come and try to divide, right? But when I look at the Bible, I do see a division on God's side as well, and where that comes is the stand for righteousness. It's the stand in courage. It's the stand to do the right thing, and that's where the division line lies, with God. And it says that Abraham's righteousness was counted him as faith. His faith was counted him as righteousness, right? It's like these things we have to stand up, and this is the opportunity to stand up. And so when somebody like Clay or some of these other pastors that I've met that are willing to stand up and say like, no, I'm not going to forsake the gathering together of the brethren. I'm not going to allow the government to trample on our First Amendment rights, which we have been given to by God, right? Those are the pastors that are rising, because those are the ones that the Bible stories have been written about, right? Those are the people that we remember in history, are the ones that stood up. And so I just encourage people, to stand up and to, don't be tricked into believing that any kind of division is bad, right? There is a dividing line, and sometimes we have to stand up, and by standing up, it causes people to separate from us. Like I've lost friends. I've lost, some of my family members don't want to talk to me, but I have to go like, what? It's okay. I'm fighting for your freedom too. I'm standing up for your freedom too. And so, take that stance and be encouraged, because there's lots of people around the world that are feeling that way, and God is going to honor that courage.
And and I think there's that part where we come to it, and because people are afraid. I talk to my friends who everywhere there's every different ideas, like we are pro this and we're pro this and all this stuff, and you watch it and you're like, there is this fear and this confusion of, well, what do we do? And the bottom line comes to this, and this word patriot, it gets thrown around so much now, and it hadn't been used in a lot of years, unless you were talking about a sports team or something. But now it's got a different connotation.
Right.
But we see all this stuff happening, and the truth is the line that we're looking at, and I believe one of the good things about this is that God has allowed the church to be pushed to that line. And when I say the church, I don't mean, Three Oaks Church. I mean the church universal, His body.
The ecclesia.
Yes. That we've been pushed to this place where no longer can we. My dad would say, "You can't ride the fence, boy." That's my dad. Right. You can't ride the fence. It's like you've got to choose. Are you choosing Christ? And listen, I want to say this, is that I'm not sitting here saying that you get the jab, don't get the jab. That's not what I'm trying to tell you. What I'm trying to tell you is that there's going to come a place that everybody has to make a stand for Christ. And in that place, we're getting pushed out of our comfort zone. And one of the things for me, I think one of the tool sets that every believer needs is truth. It's truth about all of it, and let's just call it what it is. Truth about the vaccine, truth about our politics, truth about what's pulling the strings of this and that? What is the evil that we're fighting? All these different things. Give us the truth.
Right, where's the money going?
And and that's the thing. It's like, because we know the world's money runs everything. We get that. But and I'm gonna slow down too because I'll get us in trouble. But it wouldn't be the first time. But the reality for me is when I think that your film is going to be so important in films like yours and filmmakers like you guys. My prayer is that you guys are going to do amazingly, just keep going up and getting more influence for the kingdom. But at the same time, that other people are going to rise up and tell more stories and more stories because we need the tools that encourage us until there's hope.
Right.
There
Absolutely.
is hope. This is I was speaking the other day, and I was like, this, I can't help but get excited. Even though I get frustrated with the circumstances, I can't help but get excited because this is an amazing time to be alive. I mean, God has chosen us, to be here right now. And, I have grandbabies. I've got a 6-year-old grandbaby, a 16-year-old grandbaby. And, my wife told me, she said, my God, what are we leaving our poor kids, our poor grandbabies, and I'm like, yeah. And then all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, no, God chose them.
Yeah.
He created them for this moment. And that's what we just want to encourage you guys right now is if that's fear that's kind of getting on you and that anxiety, all the crap that the world is just kind of pushing down on us. We know what that is. It's spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
But you've got to, like Joy said, you can't let fear control you. You've got to come against that. And it's people like this that literally, I mean, you really are. I mean, you're fighting against mountains of enemy thought and against the popular notion of what's going on. But it takes voices like that. And yours can't be the only one. It takes our voices too. It
Absolutely.
takes our voices, and it's so important. Let's see. She says, I don't have my glasses on. God chose our kids to be in this end time army.
Yeah.
God will move in and through, even at 3. That's right, Stephanie. That's so good. Oh, them. Okay, that's where I got. Thank you for correcting that.
Yeah, I think that even speaking to that is, we're working on this project and I'm concerned. We've got kids, and God said, don't be afraid for your kids. Be excited for them. Be excited that we're actually having a voice, instead of being in Nazi Germany and telling our kids, hey, get in that line, just do what they say and it'll be over. And then finding out they're getting separated. We're like, don't get in that line. We can handle this. God's got our back. I think, and you're talking about, us being filmmakers and being passionate about this. One of my friends from South Africa was talking about how they sent over $4 million worth of funds for feeding the poor over there. And that's amazing, and that's really great, and everything that people have come together. They spent $16 million, 4 times the amount, to send over video crews and things to do propaganda. So
That makes sense.
while they served some of the poor, they actually were trying to keep people impoverished, and they put 4 times the amount into creating propaganda. And so I think right now, as we're working on films, we as Christians need quality films. They cost a lot of money. One of our partners, Daryl, if you were on some projects that we've worked on, he just came off of a very large project. It's $28 million. This is the quality of productions that are out there. And for some of the productions that have been done that Christians have worked on, they're talking about micro budgets and different things, and then we complain that the quality is bad. But it costs a lot of money to rent hotel rooms, and it costs a lot of money for crews, and it costs a lot of money for camera gear and equipment and all that kind of stuff.
Unless you use an iPhone.
Unless you use an iPhone, and which
nobody would
gets
complain
better
about
every
that.
day. And so I think that those are, even working on this project, we're doing it at that level.
Yeah.
We're out there. We've got camera gears, and we've got very skilled people that are out there in the quality. If you watch the Trump I Know documentary, that was a very expensive project for us to produce, and we had investors that we pulled in on the project. But then you can see the difference of doing something on a micro budget. And so we're incredibly passionate about telling the truth, getting the truth out there, and then the world is starving for content. And so partnering with other Christians and writers and different things to get godly content out there together. So this is just one of many projects that we're going to be working on.
I love that.
And we're super honored to even be here with you guys and all.
Well, I'm even looking here because we've got I saw Jack Simon. He's a missionary in. I always mess this up. He won't let me say just Bogota. I like Bogota. It's easy to say, but Tunja. Anyway, he's going to be here this weekend, so
Wonderful.
He can correct me then. But we've got people all over the world who are watching what we do.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? And here's the thing that I want to talk about real quick, because I think this is really important, because two things, because I wrote this down and I did not want to forget this, because in the trailer that you guys have for Reawakening, there's this question, because you go through all these things that we all watch on the news all the time. We're going, oh God, oh Lord, is this real? And then we go through all this stuff, and the question you ask in the trailer, what if God is real? I mean, that's crazy powerful, because even as a believer, we go through life sometimes and we don't. I think we just get so accustomed to just doing life, and to realize, what if God's real? What if, I know we all believe it.
Yeah.
What if we really believe? What if Jesus is really coming back and could be any time and coming back for a victorious church?
Yeah. What if God's real? I mean,
What are we doing?
Well, I think the question. I mean, when I was working on the trailer and was working on that, and I was really struck by, just this idea of how, I was reminded of the story of Belshazzar when he, defiled the temple instruments, right? Yeah. And we literally get the writing on the wall, and the phrase, and I was thinking about that and how that's what we see happening right now. The things that we were given, and like I talked about with our rights, I mean, they were given to us by God. When God gives something, what God gives is sacred, yes? And so now what we literally have are people who are attacking those rights. They are attacking that which is sacred. And when the sacred gets messed with, God steps in.
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to start seeing, and we are seeing, in some of the people that Joy mentioned, some of these, podcasters that are getting saved and, baptized. Joy was on the beach with, somebody who's got a massive following, and she gets baptized right there, and she's given her life to the Lord. And another one texted me, and, these are all, I think, the beginning throes of God stepping in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the world's going to know that it was God.
Yeah.
And because he doesn't like it when kids are messed with, he doesn't like it when the sacred is messed with. And that's when all of a sudden you see a bloodless hand writing on the wall, and Cyrus marches through your gates, right? And you're done.
Yeah.
Right? Babylon did not exist after that.
Yeah. And
so
that's what we're looking at, and that's we're believing for God to do what He needs to do.
Yep.
And I will tell you this too, because I know got baptized at the beach. Look, how you know when they really got saved? When they get baptized in a Tennessee cow pond. That's when they're really saved.
I don't think I'm a true Christian.
Wow, I don't know. I might have to. I'm doubting. All right, I'm out of here.
But let's say this before we go, because we could talk about this all night, and Bob's got barbecue for us. So, I know. There is a way that you can help them get this done, and it's really important, because the only way that we can do this and make a difference as best we can is help each other. And so you're starting a crowdfunding program to help finance some of this stuff. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the two ways. So the way that you can follow us is on Reawakening Series. That's on Telegram. If for those of you on Telegram, if you're not on Telegram, Telegram's great. And it's just t.me/Reawakening Series, and then we set up the site reawakeningseries.com. And we were able to raise the money for the first episode. We were able to raise $280,000. And what we really need is an additional about $575,000, $600,000 to finish out the remaining 3 episodes that we want to fund, and that covers, of course, our crew. That covers hotels, gas, cat food. We do have our cat. We have an RV. We literally have an RV in the driveway out here, and we're driving around. We were just in Grand Rapids. We're here in Tennessee. We're going to be in Dallas at some point, and we're going around and getting these stories of these people that are, rising to the occasion. I mean, it's like I call them the Davids that are being called out of the wilderness to face the Goliath, right? Yeah. And so, so by going to reawakeningseries.com, now go to the Telegram and follow us first, because we are in the middle of getting the last components of that website up. Mm-hmm. And so go ahead and go to the website, bookmark it, and go to Reawakening series on Telegram, and then I'll also be in touch with Clay, so Clay can let you guys know. But right now, you can go in there and you can push a button, but there's no cart yet that you can check out. So, but we are going to be
buy swag. You can film pre-orders.
We're going to do packages where you can buy the Trump I Know. You can buy the combination and pre-order the new film. There's going to be packages where there's going to be like T-shirts and hats and things like that.
You can win a day at one of the events.
You can
one
also,
of the Reawakening Tour events.
Yeah, this is really a cool one.
You can win a day with us filmmakers and go around and as we're documenting stuff and hang out with us. And so that's been really fun. And then also, if you want to donate $5,000 or more, you automatically get to spend some time with us as we're
and you get all the stuff, all the things.
But and we can go back to the funding, but I think because one of the things that was great about coming on here and this being ReFuel, and a lot of people right now need that refuel. There's a heavy weight, there's this spiritual battle that's going on. People are tired, they're exhausted, they're stressed, they're depressed. Right now suicide's been on the rise, mental illness, all that kind of stuff. And I think the important things to know as being Christians is we'll say stories like, I was born for such a time as this, and we'll say that very flippantly. And when Esther went before the king, she went before the darkest king in history. If you look up King Xerxes, he was taking over the world. And when she went before him, said, "If I die, I die," she didn't say that very lightly. She knew she could walk in that room and he could behead her. Talk about being afraid. Like we'll all like, oh, this is such a great story. And then if we came down to that position of like, well, if I die, I die. Oh, I could die if I go in there. I have an excuse not to go in that room. Exactly. I could die.
That must not be God.
But she goes in. I mean, Mordecai, if you just read the story all over again, it was really his story. But she goes in, and not only does she not die, what happens? Come on, Pastor. What happens to Esther after this?
Oh, she goes in and she changes everything.
And she gets up to half the kingdom.
Yeah.
So not only does she not die, here is this evil king that says, you and your people get up to half of my land. Right. And God rewards the faithful.
And the enemy was gone.
And one of my favorite stories in the Bible is Gideon. And he's the smallest guy from the weakest tribe. I was born in a small town. I lived in Hayfork, California. I mean, just think of the name. Okay? But
it sounds small.
It sounds small. And
Hayfork.
Surely
we've got a Hayfork here in Tennessee somewhere.
and so God was telling me, he said, that was one of the only non-battle battles. Here Gideon is, and his army's getting dwindled down. And if we're faithful, God wins the battles for us.
Yeah.
He goes, the enemy destroyed themselves. And so whatever you're feeling called to do, it might be something very hard. And we encourage you to go into it with the Lord, go into it with a strong pastor, go into it with some leadership, and do the hard things that are scary, but he's going to meet you there. If you're a Daniel that's going in the lion's den, you know that he's going to have an angel there with you, that these are things that he doesn't just abandon us. He doesn't call us and say stand up and he's like, I'm out, see you later. Right. He said, I'm going to finish a good work. And so we're here to encourage you to get refueled. If you're not connected with a church, get connected with a church. If you are connected with a church, get strength from your community, those types of things. If you don't know Jesus, right now, you can say a prayer at home and have him just come into your heart wherever you're at. He will not, it's not just to go to heaven. I always say I don't know how people do life without God, is because I need him every day, every single day. There's a moment I'm like, dear Jesus, give me grace. Dear Jesus, help me with this. You know, I think those are really important.
I've met Matt, I understand.
Right.
Well, when I said this, I love
totally.
this man. And so whatever you're going through, you know, that you're not
right.
going to be alone. This is where we have the Holy Spirit. He's our comforter. And we serve the God of the universe.
That's right.
And what we talk about, you know, was this all planned out? You know, has this been the plan of all of these people? Well, you know whose plan this was? This was the enemy's plan from the beginning of time. So even people partnering with the enemy knowingly or unknowingly,
Right.
that is coming to fruition right now. But we don't have to partner with that. We have the choice to partner with the Lord.
That's right.
And so don't be afraid of the times that we're facing right now. Be encouraged that you serve the God that's in charge.
I love that.
So much so that when Adam and Eve made a mistake in the garden, he already had a plan to get us redeemed.
Yeah.
You know, he sent his son knowing that this was going to happen. So God's not unaware of what's happening on earth right now. He absolutely fully knows, and he has a plan for your life. He has a plan for our life. He has a plan for this nation, and he wins, folks.
God wins.
I love it. I don't even have to say anything. But listen, this is really important, and I know they're kind of shying away from this, but Joy and Matt have been given influence in places that we don't have it, and they need your help. And you can make a difference. You may think, well, my little bit is not going to help. Yes, it can. You know that. And we need to come alongside and help and be a part of this. And how amazing is that? Because God's doing something, and men and women like Matt and Joy Thayer are out there on the front lines. And, you know, you said, you know, your parents were missionaries, and you felt, honey, you a missionary all up in this, you know, because you're facing
this is my mission.
That's exactly. You're on a mountain that needs, that God's called us to overcome and to champion. And I'm just grateful for people like you guys that are going all in.
Thanks, man.
And I can't wait for all the series, for all the episodes to come out, and what's coming next after that, and all these things. So I'm just grateful for both of you.
Well, thank you.
Guys, don't forget, check it out on Telegram, and you can go to the website. It's still a little bit under process of being finished, but check it out. You can also, I mean, you may not want, maybe I shouldn't even say that, but you've got a Facebook page for your sparrow pictures.
We do. We have a Facebook page still for Sparrow Pictures and for the Trump I Know. You can follow that on Facebook, and you can find the Trump I Know on Amazon and Google and iTunes, and also Vimeo on demand. And
or you can go to our website and
or you can go to our website, thetrumpiknow.com.
And it's still an important movie.
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah, because it was really,
I think it's even more relevant now than it used to be.
And the song at the end was done by Kim Walker Smith, and it's called
Worth the Fight.
So it's probably
which is
pretty
an
good,
amazing
then.
song.
Yeah, it's baller.
So if you do want to donate and you don't know how, get a hold of Clay, and he can direct you to the right way to support what we're doing in not only this project but future projects that we're working on.
Yep. So
anyway, guys, thank y'all so much once again, and we're gonna hurry now because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So
I know
anyway,
my stomach thinks my
I
throat's
know.
been cut.
Like going. Hey. So we're going to call it quits on this tonight. But guys, thank you. And I'm so grateful that all of you who are watching this, who will be watching this, thank you for hanging out. Do me a favor. Make sure if you just came in, make sure you share this. There's a lot of good information here. And I know it's a lot of teaser about what's coming, but I'm telling you, this is going to be powerful. And let's get involved. Guys, I love you. Be blessed. And hey, you know what? Go make tomorrow way better than today was. You could do it.
Yeah.
And all three of us, we believe in you.
Yep.
Anyway, love you guys. Have a great evening.
Blessings.
See you later. Thanks.